Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 937A, and today's date is April 5th, 2016, and the title of the episode is The Economy Has Just Been Downgraded Again. Now, I just want to make an announcement before I get started. I uploaded an interview with John Rubino on the X22 Report Spotlight YouTube channel, so all you need to do is go over to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight. It'll bring you right over to the video, or you can come over to the x22report.com site, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side. You will see the video there, or you can go over to newssentinel.com. Same thing, scroll down a little bit, look over to your right-hand side, you'll see the video right there. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, at this point, we're starting to realize that the economy is not doing what everyone thinks it's doing. We've been looking at these economic indicators for quite a while, and we've been tracking each and every one of them. And each and every one of them is declining. Yes, we might have a dead cat bounce, it might bump up, but guess what? The trend is down. And you can't really question the facts when you look at this and say, hey, the economy is not doing what the government is telling us. The economy is not doing what the Fed is telling us. We're seeing more and more corporations lay off people. I mean, IBM, they have began cutting jobs in the U.S., and they're also cutting jobs in Canada. We see it's happening in Europe. We're seeing it happen in Australia. And globally right now, in the year of 2016, this year, they're going to be laying off about 14,000 people. Germany is laying off 900. Now, we're getting information that there are more layoffs coming throughout this year, and it looks like it's going to be happening every quarter. And they have a code name for this. It's called Project Solitaire. And what we're seeing is that these companies are being very, very quiet about this. Remember, the U.S., the department that counts layoffs back in 2013 was discontinued because of budget cuts. So we look at Challenger Gray and Christmas to give us the information about all these companies laying off, and we're starting to see that things are starting to ramp up at this point in time. We see BNSF is going to lay off about 4,600 people nationwide, and this is really spreading because as we go back to June of 2014 to this point in time in 2016, we're seeing almost 1 million people that have been laid off, and this is continually happening. There are a lot of small companies that are laying off, and there are larger companies that are laying off. There are retail stores that are laying off, and this is going to continually happen. And once the market completely crashes, we're going to see companies come out of nowhere and say, okay, we need to cut our staff in half. And this is definitely what we're going to see. Now, when we look at the labor market, we see that the conditions right now, they are about what we saw back in 2009. The labor market conditions index continues to push to its weakest since 2009. The 19-factor labor market condition shows us that everything is not awesome. And we know that the U.S., the central bank, they have been manipulating these numbers for quite a while. They don't count those people that aren't looking anymore but still want a job, and they just count them as fallen off. And even if you're sending out a resume and you haven't been on an interview, guess what? Hey, you're out of luck. We're not going to count you. If you're working a part-time job, guess what? We're just not going to count you. But if you get a part-time job, we count you as a full-time job. So we can see how they play around with all these different numbers and everything like that. And the economy at this point is declining. We're starting to see everything where they're downgrading and revising their numbers. They're going back and saying, okay, yeah, look, it looks pretty bad right now, and we're going to have to downgrade our numbers. Now, we see the Baltic Dry Index. It has moved up a little bit to about 487. This is still very, very low compared to all the other years going back to 1985. And we can see at this point, during a healthy economy, we're around 1,100. And what we're seeing right now is a little bump up, and most likely will probably level off and then start heading down again. And we've seen this before many, many times during this portion of the year. And as we move forward, we can see that manufacturing is going to continually decline. We're going to see the U.S. service sector is going to decline. And right now, the U.S. service sector, it is barely hanging on by a thread. New business expanded at the slowest pace since the survey began in October of 2009. So this is telling us that things, again, are falling apart. Now, we're going to walk down memory lane here and talk about all the things that are going on in the economy. And we're going to take a look at it and see if any of these things have improved. Now, U.S. factory orders, they have declined year on year for 16 months in a row. Does this sound like a recovery? No. Actually, factory orders right now have reached the lowest level since the summer of 2011. It is being projected right now that corporate earnings is down 8.5%, and this is during the first quarter of 2016. This will be the fourth quarter in a row that we see year-over-year declines. Total business sales have fallen 5% since the peak in mid-2014. S&P 500 earnings have now fallen a total of 18.5% from their peak in late 2014. Corporate debt defaults have soared to the highest level since 2009. The U.S. oil rig count is down to about 40-year lows. Challenger Gray and Christmas, they're saying that major firms in the U.S., the job cuts are up 32% during the first quarter of 2016. And if we look at consumer debt, consumers have accumulated more new credit card debt during the fourth quarter of 2015 than they did during the entire years of 2009, 2010, and 2011 combined. In the real estate market, existing home sales in the U.S. were down 7.1% during the month of February. This was the biggest decline that we have witnessed in 6 years. New construction's down. Construction spending is down. We're starting to see this picture that the economy at this point is doing what we did back in 2008, or a lot of these indicators are worse than 2008. The Restaurant Performance Index in the U.S. has dropped to the lowest level we've seen since 2008. Major retailers, as we know, have been shutting down hundreds of stores because the economy is contracting. It's not expanding at this point. This is why we see a contraction in real estate. This is why we see a contraction in retail. This is why we see a contraction in GDP. This is why we see a contraction in the economy of the United States, and not just the United States, but Canada, Australia, Europe, the private Western central banks. We see a contraction. 102 million working age Americans, they don't have a job right now. And a lot of these people who went from a full-time job, they only have part-time jobs. And this tells us that this economy has gone absolutely nowhere. Now, the president can come out and tell us that, yeah, it doesn't matter if you feel it or not. It doesn't matter if the economy's doing well. If you're just listening to me, you'll know that everything's doing fine. Well, if we're just listening to him, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. If we're just listening to the central bank, we're all going to be in a lot of trouble. And what's very interesting is everyone's like, well, the collapse hasn't come. You know, everyone's talking about this for a very long time. You know what I remember? Think of a bridge. When the inspector comes out and says, yeah, I see the rust, we better file a report here because it's starting to rust, and the building department gets the report, and there's a big cover-up. They don't want to spend the money. They say, it's not a big deal. It's a little bit of rust. They come out once again the next year. They look at the bridge. They say, yes, there's more rust now. This might be becoming unsafe at this point. Let's file another report. Of course, because of corruption and everything else, they don't want to do anything to the bridge. They come out once again. They inspect it. People get paid off. Don't worry about it. It's not a problem. But the rust is spreading now, and it's becoming critical. 3-4 years pass, and they say, don't worry about it. And then all of a sudden in the 6th year, what happens? The bridge collapses. Now, all those people that said, don't worry about it, it's never going to happen, the bridge is fine, everyone's been using it, it all of a sudden one day collapses. Then, all of a sudden, everyone comes out of the woodwork and says, oh, how did this happen? It just happened out of nowhere. Well, no, once again, it didn't happen out of nowhere. They were telling people all along, it is coming, it is coming, it is coming. But, of course, you're going to have some people that don't want to listen. And you're going to have other people saying, you know what, I'm not going to take that bridge right now. I'm going to go around it because I don't trust it. It's the same with the economy. We're reporting on it every day, saying, guess what? There's a little bit more rust. There's a little bit more rust. This bridge is about to come down. And we're seeing the signs all around us. All you got to do is open your mind. And I remember when I was in sales, my sales manager said to me, listen, the mind is like a parachute. If it's not open, it doesn't work. Now, the market, as we see, it's been up for the last couple of weeks. We started out this year where the market was down. And think about it. Why would the market all of a sudden turn around? Maybe those individuals, the smart money, they want to get their money out of the market. And this is what we're seeing right now. For the 10th consecutive week, we are seeing selling. People are selling their stocks. The smart money is getting out. Those wealthy, those elite, they're saying, hey, push this up. We need to get out of this market right now. Last week, during which the S&P 500 was up about, 1.8%, Bank of American clients were net sellers of the U.S. stocks for the 10th consecutive week. They sold about $3.98 billion worth of stocks. This tells us they understand what's happening. This tells us that this whole thing is manipulated, that this is temporary, and this market is going to come down. Now, the Atlanta Fed is out there, and they're looking at the economy, and they have just revised their estimates. Now, of course, during 2015, we had the financial pundits, the talking heads. They were all out there saying, 2016 is going to be the year the economy takes off. We're going to see 3% GDP. It's going to be incredible. And of course, when 2016 came, they started lowering it, 2.5%. And then they started lowering it again. Maybe 2%, maybe 1.5%. And as we can see, as time goes on, it's getting lower and lower and lower. Right now, the Atlanta Fed has lowered their estimates of GDP from 0.7 down to 0.4%. Now, this doesn't mean the U.S. government central bankers are going to come in and manipulate GDP like they've done in the past, where they throw in Obamacare, where they throw in inventories, where they throw in everything they possibly can to make it look like GDP is doing well. But when we look at this, we see going back in time that GDP is again trending down. It is not doing what the IMF has said. It's not doing what the U.S. government has said it was going to do. It's not doing what the central bank said it was going to do. It's not doing what everyone has been telling us. Everyone has been telling us that GDP is going to be getting better, the economy is going to be improving, and the economy is about to take off. If you notice, they always use that phrase. It's about to take off. But guess what? It hasn't. This whole entire thing is a complete illusion. Now, the IMF is out there, the central bank that was going to create this credit event in Greece to make them hand over more of their assets, to get those pensions, to create an instance where the economy starts to fall apart. Well, they're out there once again warning that the global economy is losing momentum. Translation, it has already lost momentum. Translation, the entire economy at this point is falling apart. It's about to crash. And we can see at this point that Gold is continually pushing up. We see gold is up today. The stocks are coming down. It's bouncing around at top. We've seen this back in 1929, 2001, 2008, and we're seeing it again today. And this is why everyone needs to be prepared. You need to get your food. You need to get your water. You need to get a weapon to protect your family. You need gold and silver, cash on hand, toiletries, medical supplies. Whatever you're doing, do not stop. Don't believe the government. They will lie until the very end, and during the crash, they will continually lie to you. They will never tell the truth. Actually, they're going to blame it on some other group, some other entity, some other country. And if you are prepping at this point, just do it. Maybe even ramp it up if you can. If not, and you're just getting by every single day, do what you can. At least have water and some food on hand, because you don't want to be in the middle of these people running to the market, clearing out the shelves. Now, if you've ever been in a storm, a hurricane, or anything like that, where they're predicting it's going to hit, you know that the shelves in the supermarket are completely empty. The people come in, they wipe it out at the last minute, and if you're late to the party, there's going to be nothing there. If you haven't started, you can go to lifereliance.com. They have bug out bags, water filtration system. They have seeds. You can customize your order. But it doesn't matter at this point. Whatever you're doing, just do it. You want to be prepared. You don't want to be that person on the bridge when it collapses. You want to be standing off on the side saying, wow, thank God I was prepared. Thank God I took a different route. Thank God I'm not there. And I can protect my family. We have food. And we can hunker down for the time being. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.